All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Whoops, got a little ahead of myself there. Today's webinar is about zero-touch installations and social distancing with Nebula. Thank you for joining us. As we go through today, if you have any questions, send them in using the question and answer box. That's the one I can see on my screen when doing this presentation. So again, any questions, any comments, any issues that you're having, please send them in using the question and answer section of the Zoom interface. And without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So the inspiration for today's webinar was what's going on today when it comes to the COVID-19 situation. I don't want to get into the politics of it, and regardless of what your personal feelings are on the matter, it seems that the idea of social distancing and concerns of spreading the virus is going to continue for quite some time. We're hearing, customers are saying, they don't want somebody they don't know coming on site necessarily and spending time around their employees, and vice versa. We've heard from some of our resellers that their field techs are hesitant to go out to the field in some cases. So Nebula is going to help reduce the time that you need to spend on site, and it, in some cases, may even eliminate the need to go on site yourself. So we'll do just a quick little overview here of Nebula. So Nebula is a cloud-based system for doing configuration, provisioning, management updates, everything for your network devices. So there's zero-touch provisioning. There's nothing you need to do in most cases to the hardware itself. Nebula is a free solution that's out there. So we'll dig down a little bit more into it here for us today. So Nebula covers our switches, our access points, and our NSG series of gateways. So Nebula works by having the device themselves reach out to the cloud. So the cloud is hosted on Amazon AWS. So when the device plugs in, it reaches out there and touches our cloud. Now, the only thing going on between the cloud and the device is management information. So the device will ping, hey, is there a firmware update? Have there been any configuration changes? None of your customers' traffic is going into our cloud. So there's no risk of privacy concerns or security concerns for your customers' data. Traffic that's supposed to be on the LAN stays on the LAN. Traffic that's supposed to go out to the internet goes directly out to the internet. So again, nothing is going to our cloud except for the device management information. So setting up is really easy to do. We have printed a QR code on the box and also on the belly label of all Nebula compatible products. All you need to do is scan that QR code in and assign it to one of your customers or one of the sites that your customers is running. And that's all you need to do before the device goes on site. So in case where you're just replacing something that's out in the field, or where the customer's got something that they're replacing a damaged device, or maybe you're upgrading some older equipment that you have, you don't need to take that device out of the box. You can simply scan it, assign it, ship it to your customer, and have them plug it in where they need to. And that's all it needs to be done. Management is done through our cloud. You simply go to nebula.zyxel.com. There's no direct configuration required unless you absolutely need to set a fixed IP address for the initial power on. So all of your customers, you will find them under nebula.zyxel.com. All of their sites you will find under there as well. So once the device gets plugged in, it reaches out to the cloud, it updates its firmware, it downloads its configuration. There's nothing else that needs to be done. And just getting started with Nebula is pretty simple. You simply go to nebula.zyxel.com, log in. If you've already got a My Zyxel account for managing USGs or other stuff, you simply log in with that, or you register and create a new account. You can go from having no account to having an account with a site up and running with guest SSID network in less than 5 minutes from scratch. So there's no additional hardware or software needed to use the Nebula Cloud. So there's no local wireless LAN controllers, there's no cloud keys, there's no CNAs, nothing like that. All of the devices in Nebula reach out directly to the cloud themselves. There's no software that needs to be installed on any PCs or servers. So once the devices are on, you have access to them anytime, anywhere that you've got access to your phone or an internet connection with a web browser. So Nebula makes site-to-site VPNs really easy. You simply go into the interface, select the devices that you want to VPN together, and then you simply tell it, hey, this is going to be a star topology or hub and spoke topology. Hit apply. We take care of everything else. For remote users who are trying to VPN back to the office from their mobile device, we've got just rolled out here L2TP configuration via emailed script. So you simply set it up in Nebula. It'll send a script out that'll take care of setting up and configuring the customer's device to get them connected via VPN. All updates are done over the air. So there's no reason to go on site to update firmware. It's all done through the cloud. And we give you a lot of flexibility with how this works. To begin with, we try to limit the number of firmware updates that we roll out so you're not constantly having to manage it to stay on top of the latest one. But when configuration changes or new firmware is available, you will get an email letting you know that, hey, there's new firmware available. We will automatically apply that firmware generally within the next 30 days. However, you have the ability to opt out of that. You have the ability to set up your own schedule as to when you want the firmware updates to happen. So you can have them happen, Sunday at 2 a.m. when no one's in the office. You can even set up and configure different devices to update their firmwares at different dates and different times based on the needs and how those devices are used. So you don't have to worry about the whole network going offline at once. Same with configuration changes. We push those out over the cloud. So you'll make the changes in the Nebula interface. And then periodically the Nebula devices check in. And if they see there's a change, they will then download that change and apply it. Generally, it takes less than about 2 minutes from when you make the change in the Nebula interface to when the device gets the firmware update change. And we've also got some intelligence that goes into that to make sure that we're applying those changes in the correct order so it doesn't cause a device to lose connectivity or go offline. I'm sure we've all had that situation where you're changing VLANs and you end up changing the VLAN on something at the wrong time and you end up losing access to the device. So that's something that Nebula helps automatically tries to detect and prevent from happening. So we get a lot of questions about privacy. As I mentioned before, none of the customer data, none of the customer's traffic is going into our cloud. Having said that, this is a list here of different laws and regulations we agree to, different certifications we have qualified for. So we're good with PCI here in North America. HIPAA is probably the other big one here in North America that people worry about. You're good to go on both of those. If you're deploying Nebula, not just in the US, but in other countries, just about every major country out there, we comply with all security and privacy regulations that are needed to operate in those countries. So again, all of your clients are managed through the one interface, so you don't have to keep track of different logins and different ports and different methods for different customers. No needs to worry about setting up VPNs for remote access or port forwarding. And again, Nebula is free. The core Nebula functionality is free. There is no limit to the number of devices you can manage. There is no limit to the number of customers or sites you can manage. And you get access to all of the core functionality of all of these devices. So I'll give you some looks here. This is just showing you here the interface when you log in. So one thing to talk about here is we do have the ability to set up different roles for your admins. So if you have a team or staff that you want managing accounts, it's very granular. You can control which sites they can view, which sites they can edit. You can give access to, say, your end user to allow them to log in and check things. For guest access, we have special account levels for a guest ambassador, such as the receptionist, to be able to log in and generate a username and password if you want to use username and passwords for guests to use to get onto the Wi-Fi network. We've got a special role just for installers that allows people to add devices to a customer's site, but doesn't allow them to make any other configuration changes. But as you can see here, when you log in, you get a list of all of your customers. You get a quick summary of what's going on, how many devices they have online, how many sites they have. You then go through and choose the site you want to use or want to manage. Or excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. You then choose the customer and it'll break down and show you all the sites that that customer has, assuming they have more than one site. As you can see, we have Google Maps integration, so you can get visibility on where those sites are located. And then once you choose a site, you get taken to this dashboard here. The widgets across the top middle there, those are all customizable, so you can see the data you want to see at a glance. So by default, we'll show you, how many APs are assigned to that site, how many are online, any of them are overloaded, showing you your PoE utilization versus budget. You can see across the top there, we make it really easy for you to jump um, between different customers or different sites using pull-down menus to jump between them. We allow you to group different customers together. If you're using our NSG gateways, we give you a little breakdown here showing you not just which users are using traffic, but we can actually show you which applications are using what different amounts of traffic as well as the users. So this is showing you the wireless status screen here. You can go into your APs. You can see all the client devices, whether they're currently online or not. And again, these columns are all customizable. So you can go and click and choose which columns you want to see. In this example here, we're seeing the device name, we're seeing which AP they're connected to, we're seeing which SSID they're connected to, the level of security, their MAC address, signal strength, their data rates, and you can add and subtract those depending on what you want. We've also got the ability to see here bandwidth utilization over time by the different clients. So this is just showing you here PoE consumption screen on the switches, so you can see how PoE utilization is on your network. You can see which ports are having the most use, which ports are using the most amount of power. When it comes to management, we've got this view here. You can see all your ports, what speed the connection is, whether they're providing PoE power or not. You've got a number of troubleshooting tools here to use. When it comes to managing your switches, they all virtually stack, so you can manage multiple ports across multiple switches simultaneously. Just choose the ports you want to edit, and then a pop-up window comes up here with the settings, so you can make those settings and apply them just once. And it'll apply those changes across multiple ports, multiple switches. Now, we do have a paid tier of Nebula. This is something we call Professional Pack. So this unlocks some other features, particularly aimed at those of you that are providing managed services or those of you looking to provide more of a proactive approach to managing your customers' networks. So one of the things the Pro Pack unlocks here for you is it unlocks a wireless health report. So you can see here we graph over time the quality of connections from the client devices to the access point. So you can figure out who may be having connection issues and see, is that a problem with the way the APs are laid out? Is that a problem with the channels you're using? Or is that just a situation where in certain corners of the office you just don't have good coverage? Maybe you need to add an additional access point. So some other things that the Pro Pack unlocks here, we keep a year's worth of logging information versus just a week with the free version. We can give you email or push alerts when devices go offline. We can generate all sorts of different reports and have those automatically emailed to yourself on whatever schedule you want. You can add your logos to those reports and email them to your customers so you can show them, hey, this is what's going on. This is what the antivirus has caught in the last week or the last month. We keep an audit trail of all configuration changes by the user. So you can always go back in and say, well, wait a minute, why did we change this VLAN? When did that happen? And you can say, oh, wait a minute, that happened 3 months ago. So that can't be affecting what just started happening this week. Or alternately, you can go, okay, well, I can see that Bob did that. Let me talk to Bob and find out why we did that. So it'll help you with troubleshooting and things like that. Gives you the ability to export data in a CSV format. We have this automatic topology view that will generate with Pro Pack. So we'll detect the devices on the network and then graph them so you can see which devices are connected to which other devices. So really helpful if you're going on site or dealing with a problem and you haven't touched that site in months and you've kind of forgotten how things are. You can figure out, well, what's connected to what to help you figure out which devices you need to focus your troubleshooting on. If you're doing IPTV, which probably most of you aren't, this seems to be mostly in hospitality in the MXU space, but if you are doing IPTV, Nebula Pro Pack unlocks additional IGMP advanced settings that you can tweak. We also create a report. I think it's on the next slide here. There we go. So we also give you an IPTV report showing you which channels are being watched, which users are watching which channels, and then we use machine learning or AI to analyze what's going on in the network. So we can troubleshoot and see some problems such as drop frames, things like that, which might be hurting IPTV performance. And we can give you suggestions and say, hey, these are the settings you should probably change that might solve this issue for you. Nebula Pro Pack here also unlocks for you configuration templates. So if you're changing, site or settings across multiple devices or across multiple sites, you can create a template of just those settings you want to change and have them applied through chosen sites. We also give you the ability to clone existing organizations or sites to make it easier for you to set things up, right? So most of the time when you're setting up a new site, most of the settings are probably going to be the same as an existing site you already have. So this way you can just clone your existing site and then just change those things that need to be changed. And we give you the ability to create a backup and restore points on your configuration. So you can always go in there and revert back to a prior version of your configurations of those networks. The other service we offer, which requires a license, is the security solutions, the security pack. This is part of our NSGs. So all of the NSGs will come with 1 year of these security services unlocked. These are basically UTM services, Unified Threat Management. So when you have the active NSS subscription, you get access to a number of different reports showing you what's going on in the network, bandwidth utilization, antivirus reports on attacks that you have seen, filtering reports on which sites have been blocked and who were going to those sites, all sorts of stuff that you can go through and break down either for yourself, for your own knowledge, or to pass to your customer to show them, look, this is what these UTM services are doing for you. This is why you should renew it next year. So here's the breakdown. Nebula itself is free. We've talked about most of those features that are in there. Again, there's no limit to the number of devices or sites you can manage. Then we have the professional pack. We went through most of the key features on that. So the professional pack is available either as an annual license or as a perpetual seat license. So you can choose either or how you want to do it. If you are going to go do the perpetual license, it converts the site from a point-based system to a seat-based system. So basically the entire organization has to be converted to lifetime. You can't just do lifetime on 1 or 2 devices. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, we've got both of those options for you. I don't think any of our competitors are offering a perpetual license. And our perpetual license costs less than, say, 1 year with our big competitor, Meraki, for 1 year of their licensing. If you are doing the annual licensing and you choose to let that lapse, it simply falls back to the free version of Nebula. You don't get locked out of your equipment like some of our competitors do. And then on the Nebula security pack, that unlocks for you App Patrol, which allows you to create firewall rules based on individual applications or functions of applications without needing to know things like ports and IP addresses and port ranges and things like that. IDP, intrusion detection and prevention, antivirus, content filtering, and reporting. So these are our gateways right now that we have that support Nebula, the NSG 50, 100, 200, and 300. They're all essentially the same device as far as the functionality and features they offer. The difference is going to be performance and the configuration of ports. So that's something to take into account. Are you going to be using those security services? How fast is the broadband connection? How many users are they going to have? And that'll help you determine which device you need. You can always reach out to Jacob or Ivan, and they can help narrow that down. We've also got some other documents we can send you which have all the speeds and information to help you out. So these all come with 1 year of the Nebula Pro Pack and 1 year of the UTM services. On the switch side of things, we have the NSW switches, which are dedicated to Nebula and only Nebula. And then we've got a number of other switches here which are part of our Nebula Flex or Nebula Flex Pro package. So these are our 1920 V2 series switches, the 1930 series switches, XS 3800 and the GS 2220s. And just added, just recently in the last couple of weeks, we've now added the 1350 series switches. So all of these switches are can now be managed through Nebula. So again, the NSWs have to be managed through Nebula. The rest of these devices, you can choose whether you want to use them and manage them in the traditional way, or you want to use them using the Nebula. And then APs. So the short story on the APs here is Just about every AP we have currently available can be managed with Nebula if you so choose. The NAP series comes with 3 years of Pro Pack, 5,000 and 6,000, and the Wi-Fi 6 APs all come with 1 year of Pro Pack out of the box, except for the NWA 110AX. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, you can go to nebula.zyxel.com at any point. We have a demo account set up on there, so you can log in using the demo account credentials, and they are visible on the screen when you go there, and log in and see a live demo and play around with Nebula yourself. Alternately, reach out to Jacob or Ivan if you are part of our partner program, an approved partner. We can help set you up with a 60-day demo kit, which you can use at your office to test out and play with. So guys, that concludes today's webinar. If you have any questions, send them in using the Q&A box. Alternately, my email's on there. It's seanr@zyxel.com. Feel free to email me offline and I will get back to you. At Zyxel, we've got like 3 different anti-spam things going on. So if you don't get a response from me in 24 hours, send it again. Your first email probably ended up in one of the spam things and I overlooked it. So change the subject, send it again, and I will respond to you. And of course, you can always reach out to your sales contacts, Ivan, Tri, or Jacob. I'm not seeing any questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Thank you for joining us, guys. We've got a webinar coming up next week, I believe it is, where we'll go through some of the new changes and new features that were added to Nebula last month. So we'll go over those for you. I've got a webinar coming up dealing with our new Wi-Fi 6 access points, so we can talk about those a little bit more. And then Tri's got a number of presentations and tech presentations coming up, so feel free to join those. And again, if you have any questions, just feel free to email me directly. Thanks, everybody.